Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Tuesday, June 3rd edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the WellPoint Studios here in beautiful, historic downtown Lowell, joined today by one of my regular Tuesday guest co-hosts, the empty chair. So you know what that means, everybody. It's a Trigger 'em Tuesday edition of the Daily Pulse, and we're probably sure to trigger some folks today, and hopefully we can trigger you into becoming a little bit more aware of what some folks in the Massachusetts legislature intend for the working class people of the Commonwealth. Two bills that are up in the Massachusetts State Senate and the House of Representatives. One has garnered a significant amount of attention recently. It involves transportation. Another one involves Medicare for all and an attempt to fix the healthcare system here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're going to look at both of those, but first, let me thank my Daily Pulse sponsors. Of course, Ray Booten is a licensed realtor in Massachusetts and New Hampshire and a certified appraiser in both of those states as well. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, there's one call to make, and that is to Ray Booten. You can find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. You'll get his email, his phone number, every way in which you can contact him, realestaterayBooten.com. But you do need to contact him. You will not be sorry. Thank you as well to our friends at WellPoint. WellPoint, the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members at WellPoint. Your whole health is their whole point. Thanks to WellPoint, thanks to Ray. Got some other sponsors we'll thank as well in a few minutes, and we'll get to them before we talk about Medicare for all. But I first want to talk about the transportation bill, Senate Bill 2246. You can easily look it up online yourself, folks. Commonwealth of Massachusetts website, Senate Bill 2246, and it was sent forward by State Senator Cynthia Cream, who I believe might be she's in a leadership position in the Senate. I don't know if she's like second in command or Ways and Means, whatever the case may be. She's up there in the Senate leadership, and she's out there in terms of her policies. Naturally, if it's a left-leaning piece of legislation, State Senator Jamie Eldridge has signed on to it. He is one of the 8 presenters of the bill, along with Senator Cream. Also signed on to the bill from the House of Representatives side is Lowell's 17th Middlesex State Representative Vanna Howard, representing Belvedere, South Lowell, downtown sections of the city. She, too, has signed on to this bill, which we'll tell you about in a quick second, tell you what it's aiming to do. But just to, actually, let's show you what this bill aims to do. First, Senate Bill, there you see it right there, 2246. Seeking to relieve traffic congestion and improve air quality and promote compliance with the greenhouse gas emissions limits established pursuant to Chapter 21N. Those are all those like carbon goals they set for 2030 and 35 and 40 and 2050, right? We're going to get to zero carbon or whatever. But look at the highlighted part, folks. This piece of legislation seeks to set a statewide vehicle miles travel reduction goal for the year 2030 and for every 5th year thereafter. You got that? They want to set limits on how many vehicle miles are traveled. That means you. If you drive a car, there are limits on how far you can travel. Now, I looked at the bill. It doesn't state what the penalties would be if you exceed your allotment of miles. We don't know what that allotment of miles is. We don't know what the penalties are, but rest assured there will be penalties. I think they call that a carbon tax. You'll pay a quote-unquote carbon tax, or they'll come up with some other word for it. But the goal of this piece of legislation is to set a statewide vehicle miles travel reduction goal for the year 2030, and then every 5 years beyond, heading up to 2050. How crazy is this piece of legislation? Well, my state senator from Chelmsford, Michael Barrett, the 3rd Middlesex District. He's actually from Lexington, but his district encompasses my home, Chelmsford. He hasn't signed on to this bill, and he's very publicly questioned it. Now, Mike Barrett is about as left as you can get. So if you're Senator Cynthia Cream and you filed a piece of legislation that Mike Barrett hasn't signed on to and has actually questioned, man, you are out there. I'll tell you why, because Mike Barrett, I interviewed in my radio career back in 2015. You know why? He proposed a carbon tax. Mike Barrett wanted to tax you based on the number of miles you drove. He thought it was fairer than a gasoline tax. So he wanted to tax people for driving their car. Depending on how many miles you drove, you would pay X amount in taxes. Michael Barrett thinks this bill is a bad idea. In fact, he said during the hearing on the bill, quote, "I do worry about an unintended and subtle bias against rural Massachusetts," and added that it raises the question of what someone is to do in a place where one has to travel a long distance to work. Michael Barrett thinks this bill's got some issues. He thinks it's kind of tough on rural people. He's right. He thinks, he's questioning, what are you supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I assume him included. If you have to travel a long distance to work. Lexington, it's a haul into Boston. You drive back and forth to work every day. Keyword work, right? If your job is not within a range where you would not exceed your limits, well, guess what? You're going to pay more under this bill. How much more? We don't know, because the bill doesn't lay out, or if it did, I missed it, all the penalties if you exceed it, penalties in the form of tax. I don't know, maybe they'll throw you in jail and confiscate your car. I don't know what they'll do if you disobey your limits, but that's, Michael Barrett is questioning it. Besides traveling to work, again, what if you live in a rural area or even an urban area like Lowell? My kids play sports. Part of my son's travel basketball takes us to, well, it's taken us to Sudbury. It's taken us to Taunton. It's taken us to Bridgewater. It's taken us to all sorts of places over the last several months. Perhaps for your child, it's soccer, or perhaps for your child, it's dance or band or some type of camp that they do in the summertime, for example, right? You sign them up for camps or whatnot, and you drive them back and forth. You're probably going to exceed your miles. You're going to get punished. You're going to have to pay a higher tax. You will be penalized for driving to your kids' sports, extracurricular activities. What if you got family far away? What if you got an elderly resident? Right? Live in Lowell. One of your grandparents is got a house or in a nursing facility. You visit them every day, or you visit them on a regular basis. You bring them food. Hope you've got them in a local healthcare facility, nursing facility, or whatever. What if somebody's in the hospital for a long period of time? What if somebody's undergoing cancer treatments for months and you're got to drive them to and fro to Boston, to the hospitals? Or the other way around, if you come into Lowell from, I don't know, central part of the state, southern part of the Merrimack Valley, you're going to rack up miles. You're going to violate your limit. These things are nuts. This piece of legislation is nuts. How nuts is it? Again, Michael Barrett is questioning it. That's all you need to know about how far left, how extreme this piece of legislation is. Senator Michael Barrett. out of Lexington, but also represents Chelmsford and other surrounding communities, thinks it's got some unintended consequences. Gee, you think? Senator Barrett, you know what one of the intended consequences is of this bill, though? Naturally, anything they do on Beacon Hill sets up a bureaucracy. Yep. They will set up another level of government that will monitor this, that will institute the goals, the limits, and also oversee all transportation projects and anything that may or may not affect the number of miles that people drive. Certainly if it encourages you to drive, that transportation project is, out the door. I wonder if that will affect the speed bumps in Lowell. It's a speed bump to slow down transportation, encouraging people to drive because now they'll be able to drive more safely. They'll tell you, well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to incentivize through penalties, people to take public transportation. Cool. What if you work the overnight shift? You seen that train schedule in Boston? What if you work in Boston or somewhere along that line? What if you work the late shift? What if you get out of work at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning? You're SOL, you're shit out of luck. What if you, again, have to go in for hospital treatments? What if you got an emergency? What then? Public transportation is not reliable. Public transportation is not safe. People don't view public transportation in Massachusetts as safe. They're concerned. Now, whether it's safe or not, I'll let everybody else figure it, but people don't like to take public transportation. Part of the reason is safety, cleanliness, breakdowns, the lack of it being able to stay on a regular schedule during weather issues or mechanical issues or whatever. But they're going to try to encourage you to take public transportation, and they will incentivize the creation. They're going to create more public transportation. I don't know. How's it been working so far? They've been working on that for how long? How long they've been trying to get you to ride public transportation? More people or less people riding it? Used to have, what, 1 car per family? Then, well, mom started working, right? In the olden days, just one person worked. Usually it was dad. But mom had to start going to work because they priced you out of the economy if you were middle or lower class. So mom had to get a car. So quickly we went from a 1-car family to a 2-car family. Now you got what, 4 or 5-car families? If you got teenage kids, your kids get 16, 16 and a half, 17, right? What do they get? They get cars. How many families out there in Lowell and surrounding communities have 3, maybe 4 cars in the household until the kids go off to college or get married and move along? A lot, right? Why is that necessary if public transportation is such a great option? Do you really need to have all those cars if public transportation was such a great option? Look around you, folks. Look at the buses. Next time a bus drives by you in Lowell, look on it. Hard to see because they now tint all the windows, but you're not going to see many bodies on there. You're going to see a lot of people getting on and off the buses. You're going to see it stop at every one of the designated bus stops around the downtown or other areas. Probably not, because there's very few people riding it, and if so, it's one person at a time that's hopping on at a bus stop. This bill is insane. This bill is nuts. Why? It only has 8 presenters. That should kind of give you a clue, but it is a little bit interesting that Lowell Representative Vanna Howard is one of those 8 presenters that wants to set a statewide vehicle miles traveled reduction goal for the year 2030, and then every 5th year beyond. This has generated a lot of headlines. Boston Herald ran a huge article on it, other entities. It's made Fox National News. It's been the topic of, this anti-green, anti-climate change efforts that folks are pushing back against. The climate change efforts that folks are now starting to push against a little bit to some degree. The Trump administration is certainly pushing back on some of these things. Interestingly enough, this bill also, it doesn't exclude electric vehicles from it. So if you think, well, I did my part. I went out and bought my $75,000 Tesla to help enrich Elon Musk. I've done my part. I should be able to drive it as far as I want because I'm not burning gas. Senator Cynthia Cream wants you to drive your electric car less because after all, she knows you're still burning energy with your electric car. You got to charge it, and you know what's charging it, right? Largely gas, largely coal, some nuclear, some wind, some solar, some hydroelectric. But you know that those fossil fuels are also charging your electric vehicle, don't you? So she smartly realizes the electric vehicle isn't what they told you it was. It's not the end-all be-all to solve climate change. It's the end-all be-all to make Elon Musk and his shareholders pretty bleeping filthy, rich, right? They're all rich because you're all buying his electric cars because you're going to save the planet. You're wonderful. But Cynthia Cream wants to punish you as well for doing the quote-unquote right thing. All right, tuned into the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Tuesday, June 3rd edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm Teddy Panos. We're coming to you here in the WellPoint Studios on the show that keeps its finger on the pulse of the city of Lowell and the world around it. I want to tell you about the Medicare for All bill, which once again has some Lowell sponsors on it, and we'll tell you what it does and most importantly, who would be covered and how it will be paid for. First, let's thank our Daily Pulse sponsors. Ray Booten, of course, licensed realtor, certified appraiser. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to our friends at WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Excuse me. Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925. Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in Greater Lowell through strategic, impactful philanthropy. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency you've counted on to protect your most valuable assets since 1982, and by the Massachusetts Pirates. They're bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Mill City. Next Pirates home game at the Tsonga Center, Saturday, June 21st. Before we talk about Medicare for All, I forgot to throw this little thing in there. Get used to this term, 15-minute city. Look it up, 15-minute city. It's a worldwide effort to kind of confine where you travel to. Everything you need will be within a 15-minute radius of you, whether that's a walking or a driving radius, I don't know. But these carbon bills, these transportation bills aimed at punishing you for driving longer distances, it could be the Trojan horse that will open up that. Might be very careful. Could be like letting the camels head into the tent or the fox into the hen house, or the rooster into the hen house, I should say. Maybe the fox, because, the rooster is only going to, help create more roosters and hens. The fox, well, that could be the elimination of it. All right, Medicare for All, House Bill 1239, Senate Bill 860, making its way through the Massachusetts State House. Naturally, sponsored by State Senator Jamie Eldridge. Who else, right? Co-signed by 17th Middlesex Lowell State Representative Vanna Howard and 16th Middlesex State Representative Tara Hahn. So 2 of Lowell's 4 delegation members on Beacon Hill have signed on to Medicare for All. Senator Ed Kennedy has not. He's not one of the petitioners. How he stands on it, we don't know. Ditto 16th Middlesex State Representative Rodney Elliott. How he stands on the bill, we don't know, but we know he hasn't signed on to it yet. What is Medicare for All? Well, it's what it says. Universal, it's different words throughout the years, right? Single payer system, universal health care, Medicare for All, call it whatever you want. Basically, the government takes over your health care. All of it in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Let's take a quick peek here. Well, it offers it to everybody. Maybe they might allow private plans for a while until they become extinct, but eventually they'll move them out. So let's do away with the transportation bill and let's look at the intent of Medicare for All. And we snipped House Bill 1405 for this one. It is the intent of this act to establish a single public payer for all health care in the Commonwealth. Towards this end, public spending on health insurance shall be consolidated into the trust to the greatest extent possible until such time as the role of all other payers for health care has been terminated. Health care costs shall be collected from collateral sources whenever medical services provided to an individual are or may be covered services under a policy of insurance, health care, service plan, or other collateral source available to that individual, or for which the individual has a right of action for compensation to the extent permitted by law. Fancy legalese. But they're telling you what the intent of this bill is. Going to create a single payer system, the government. The government will become the payer. Well, you will become the payer because after all, you are the government. You fund the government. The government does not make any money. It makes its money by taking it from you, the payer. But they're telling you what they're going to do. We're going to gradually eliminate all other payers for health care until such time as it's been terminated. As all others have been terminated, we'll work some collateral payments out of there. But ultimately, the intent is to establish that single payer for all healthcare in the Commonwealth. There's the snip for you. I got it right there. You don't need to take my word for it. You can read the entire bill. It's lengthy, and it will make your eyes pop out in certain spots, which I'm going to highlight for you. But it's House Bill 1239, Senate Bill 860. Look it up, Massachusetts House Bill 1239, Massachusetts Senate Bill 860. Put it into the Google search machine or any search engine you use, and you will find it. Again, sponsored by Senator Jamie Eldridge, no surprise. Co-signed by State Representatives Vanna Howard and Tara Hong from Lowell, and you saw the intent of it right there. Did you notice what's in the intent? Scroll down a little bit and you'll see reference to the beginning of the third sentence, trust, the trust. End of the second sentence, start of the third sentence, the trust. It's a fancy way of saying the bureaucracy. They're going to set up a trust where all the money that's collected to pay for this from the various sources, both directly from the taxpayers, the working taxpayers, mind you, and from other collateral sources, which could be pension plans, other private insurance systems, auto insurance, health benefits, and stuff like that, homeowner policies or whatever. Anywhere they can grab money from to help pay for health costs, they are going to do so. The trust naturally will be overseen by a bureaucracy. It's going to establish directors, co-directors, probably community advocates, public engagement officer. You name it, there'll be a board, there'll be a commission, no doubt. All paid, of course. So they're setting up a giant bureaucracy with the money gathered from all sources. Now, let's look at that money, shall we? Where is this money going to come from? So we hide the intent, and how is Medicare for All going to be paid for? Well, number one, an employer payroll tax of 7.5%. So payroll tax. Any company is going to pay a 7.5% payroll tax on employee W-2 wages. They will exempt the first 20% of payroll per establishment. How many establishments / businesses do you know that make less than $20,000 a year in revenue? Yeah, maybe some gig drivers or whatever. But they're going to exempt anything under $20,000. Per establishment. A An additional employer payroll tax of 0.5% will be assessed on establishments with 100 or more employees. So if your company has 100 or more employees, you're going to pay an 8% tax, not 7.5. You will pay 8%. So if you're a company that's got like 98 employees or 99 employees and you're thinking of hiring, is it worth it to hire? I don't know. You tell me. How else are they going to pay for it? Well, here's the part you should start to pay attention to, folks, right? Because who cares if the employers pay, right? Well, you're not exempt from paying for it. An employee payroll tax of 2.5% will be assessed, exempting the first $20,000 of income and replacing previous spending by employees on health premiums and out-of-pocket expenses. All W-2 wages will be combined for each taxpayer, and one $20,000 exemption will be allowed. So anything above $20,000, you will pay 2.5% as an employee if you're working. What if you're not an employee? Are you going to pay? No, unemployment is not going to get taxed. All the goodies that are given, if you're not a working person, they're not going to get taxed. Your paycheck is going to get taxed. Your paycheck, not the rich person. No. This is not the millionaire's tax. An employee making more than $20,000 will pay a tax on this. In addition to, I assume, everything else you pay for, right? Family and medical leave, all these other things that you pay for. You're going to pay an additional tax so that everybody can have health care for all. And of course, the third thing, a 10% payroll tax on the self-employed, including general partnership income and other income subject to self-employment tax for federal purposes, exempting, of course, the first $20,000 of payroll per self-employed taxpayer. So, self-employed, do you know what that is? That's if you own your own business. Doesn't say somebody who's got a business of 100 employees, 1,000 employees. No. You have your own business, you're going to pay a 10% tax. Now, I do wonder, will you pay the 10% tax for being self-employed and another 2% for being an employee? Probably not, but I'd like to see the fine print on that. But a 10% tax on mom and pop businesses. Small business is the backbone of our economy. Just look at all your politicians. You open a small business, they're going to show up. They're going to get that giant ribbon. They're going to get my friend Danielle McFadden and Lindsay from the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce to bring those giant scissors that the Chamber of Commerce has. They're going to put a ribbon in front. Everybody's going to get into the photo op. The business owners, the self-employed individuals, the mom, the pop. The politicians will be there for the photo op, and they'll cut that ribbon. And then they'll tax you 10% to pay for health care for all, Medicare for all, a single-payer system. I thought small business was the backbone of our economy. Why are they paying 10%? Well, the answer, if I had to guess, is if you take the 7.5% in number one and the 2.5% in number two, you will pay 10%. You add 7.5 and 2.5, you get 10%. So it's basically a tax of 10% one way or another on working people, on companies that employ these working people. You're a small business owner, you're getting the big end though. The mom and pop shops, the backbone of our economy, is apparently going to be the backbone of this Medicare for all, because they're going to pay 10%. The employee will pay 2.5%. The other employer, including those who employ thousands of people maybe, they're going to pay 7.5%. But mom and pop, the backbone of our economy, congratulations. You're going to be the backbone of Medicare for all. Now, these are big tax increases, folks, and they're on working people. You can see it right there. This is payroll taxes on working people. What happened to supporting the working people? What happened to helping the working people? Now they'll tell you this will help the working people because it'll make healthcare more affordable. I can read you the answers that they're going to give you right now. It'll make it more affordable. It'll make it better. You'll get better care. You'll get more comprehensive coverage. It'll be better for you. Medicare for all. Let me ask you a question. Aren't these the same promises they told you back at the turn of the century when Massachusetts went to not Medicare for all, but to a large degree, yes. Mass Health was created to insure those who didn't have private insurance. Did that improve healthcare in the Commonwealth? Did it make it cheaper? Is your health insurance cheaper today than it was when Governor Deval Patrick? Been a while since Governor Deval Patrick, right? He's been gone since 2014. It started in 2006. Been a while. Has your healthcare gotten cheaper? No. Has your healthcare gotten better? Are you getting the same level of care you got? If you are a working person who has your own private health insurance, either through your employer or through you paying for it, has your health insurance gotten cheaper and has the quality of your health care gotten better? If you're non-working and you didn't have health insurance, yeah, because at least now you have some level of health insurance. Is it good? I don't know. Go to an emergency room and you tell me. You tell me after a 10-hour wait at the emergency room if the quality of care you're getting is better than it was prior to Mass Health. How about Obamacare? 2009, 2010, right? The national version of Mass Health. Did healthcare get better after Obamacare? Did it get cheaper after Obamacare? I don't see it. If you didn't have it, if you weren't a worker and you weren't getting it through your employer, or you weren't paying for your own private healthcare plan, didn't get cheaper, did it? It didn't get better, did it? If it did, congratulations, you are one of the exceptions. You're not the rule. Let's be honest. We all know people. Go give birth. They're getting you out of that hospital in almost 24 hours nowadays. They don't want you in there. Moms, women, right? We love our women. We fight wars on women, but man, you give birth, you get the hell out of the hospital quickly. That health insurance company doesn't want you in there. Why? Because they're not going to pay for it. And don't think the state's going to pay for it either. Don't think anyone's paying for it. You go to the emergency room, you're going to wait forever. You will wait forever. Unless you have a limb hanging off, you will wait forever. I've been there. I've done it. You've been there. You've done it. So who is eligible for this healthcare for all? In other words, Medicare for all is technically what they're calling it. All. Who is all? This is where it gets interesting. All right. Let's stop triggering you with the tax increases and let's trigger you with this little tidbit. Section 12 of the House bill. Eligible participants. All Massachusetts residents, as defined in Section 1. Sit tight. We'll get to who all the Massachusetts residents are in a quick second. But back to this for a second. Number 2, all non-residents who work 20 hours or more per week in Massachusetts pay Massachusetts personal income and payroll taxes and pay any additional premiums established by the trust to cover non-residents. And naturally, if you need emergency services in the state, you'll get it covered even if you live out of the state, but the trust will try to recoup such money for such patients whenever possible. Did you catch that? Not only is this providing health care for all Massachusetts residents, but it's providing health care for non-residents. All you got to do is work 20 hours or more per week in Massachusetts. Hop on Route 3. Take a look at the traffic coming down from Nashua, New Hampshire. Hop on Route 93. Take a look at the traffic coming down from Salem, New Hampshire, and beyond both of those locales. They're going into work here in Massachusetts. They're coming to Lowell, as evidenced by all the New Hampshire plates you see there. Never mind the New Hampshire plates that park overnight, but you know, we'll ignore that. They're all visiting their loved ones in the area. But they're working in Lowell, they're working in Boston, they're working all over the Commonwealth. If you work 20 more hours in Massachusetts, you will be covered under Medicare for all. Now, you can argue that, well, I work here, I'm paying these payroll taxes that we showed you earlier. Why shouldn't I get health insurance coverage? Sure. You think that 2.5% that's being paid is going to cover the health care costs for an out-of-state resident? You think so? Or the 7.5% that the employer is covering? You think that 10% combined is going to cover the health care costs of out-of-state residents? Again, are your health care costs going down? Are your prescription services going down? By the way, this would include eye care, ear care, mental health care, addiction services, the whole smorgasbord of health coverages. Out-of-state residents are eligible. Out-of-state residents are eligible if they pay applicable personal and payroll income and payroll taxes. Or if you need emergency treatment for illness or injury, provided that the trust will try to recoup such costs when possible. How are they going to recoup those costs? If you live in New Hampshire and you don't have health insurance, auto insurance, or a bunch of other insurances, you come to Massachusetts and go to a hospital for an emergency, they're going to cover it. And they're going to try to get the money back from who? Who? You think the state of New Hampshire is going to funnel health insurance money to a Massachusetts hospital? If they don't have to? If you've already got it covered? Have they been drinking? Have they been abusing substances that they're going to need treatment for? This is insane. But wait, it gets a little bit more insane because I know the question you're all asking, right? Residents, non-residents. Well, if the non-residents who are working in Massachusetts from other states are getting covered, what of the non-residents who, through some technicalities that we've seen the last handful of years in our immigration system, have become, quote unquote, residents? Well, residents according to Maura Healey et al., non-residents according to Donald Trump et al. But let us look, shall we, the final bit of thank you to the working people. The definition of, quote, resident. A person who lives in Massachusetts as evidenced by an intent to continue to live in Massachusetts and to return to Massachusetts if temporarily absent coupled with an act or acts consistent with that intent. So this is brilliant legalese, right? You're a resident of Massachusetts. Even if you don't live here, but show the intent to live here and return to Massachusetts if you are temporarily absent. Now, if you're temporarily absent because you're in the military, that makes sense, right? But what if you're temporarily absent because you've got I don't know, a new fling, a one-night stand that's turned into a 1-month stand or a 6-month stand? But you know it's not going to be, this isn't the one, she's not the one, he's not the one you're going to end up in wedded bliss with. You're just shacking up right now. But I intend to move back when I've gotten sick of this relationship. You're covered. You are covered. But let's go down to the bottom. You see the highlighted down the bottom. Specifically include homeless individuals, individuals incarcerated in Massachusetts, and undocumented individuals. Ding, 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 ding. Now, homeless individuals, right? If you're homeless and you go to an emergency room, they have to treat you now, right? They'll continue to treat you, but what else will they be responsible for treating you for? You could say they already do it since they're all eligible for mass health, but undocumented individuals, the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens, migrants, call them what you will. They're considered residents. They are now officially residents. As such, under this bill, they qualify for Medicare for all. Even though the federal government has told you, well, we're not giving Medicaid money. We're going to start taking some of this money away if you continue to provide this for them. So it looks like this is a little end around to try to codify it under Medicare. But I don't know. Are there any federal income taxes that come into Massachusetts? Is there any money from the federal payroll taxes that come into Massachusetts? Social Security, SSDI, disability insurance and whatnot? All these folks would be covered, including the illegals who Washington, D.C., Donald Trump has told you, we're not paying for it anymore. You know that battle that all your congresspeople in D.C. and your U.S. senators keep talking to you about? They're going to cut 14 million people off Medicaid. Republicans are not disputing that. They're going to cut who they say shouldn't be getting it. Illegal immigrants, undocumented individuals are not entitled to it from the federal government. So they're going to cut that funding. Others will be cut. People who are able-bodied and are not working, but are able to work, they're going to have to go to work to continue to receive it. They won't get it cut. That's about 7 or 8 million, I believe, is that number, if I read that correctly. But they're going to be required to go to work in some capacity to continue to receive their federal Medicaid for all. But Massachusetts is going to do them one better. They're going to ask you, mom and pop business owner with your 10% payroll tax, employer of anywhere from 1 to 1 million people, if your company is lucky enough to be that big, and we'll call it 1,000 just to be more realistic, you're going to pay 7.5%. And yes, you, working man and woman of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you too will pay an additional 2.5% for your health care. And yet that money is going to also be shared with those who aren't working, those who aren't paying the payroll taxes to help offset these costs. And yes, those undocumented immigrants who need health insurance. because we're apparently going to continue to welcome everything into Massachusetts. Do you think this is going to be a magnet, by the way, for even more people to come to your state? You talk about putting an open for business sign on your border, right? Your town lines, your state lines, right? New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, anywhere else in America. Massachusetts is open for business. If you want health care and you want some other bennies, Massachusetts is open for business for you. Paid for by the taxpayers of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which, as we know, if you are a regular of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, means...
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Yep. Kevin Bacon is the Massachusetts taxpayer. And Niedermeyer with the paddle, that's the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That's what they're looking to do during this legislative session. They got a bunch of other bills there, but two of the ones that we just covered now, the transportation bill is going to penalize you for traveling beyond whatever they set as the acceptable limit. You're going to pay a tax. It's not called a carbon tax. Maybe it will be called a carbon tax. I don't know. But that's the goal. And if you think you did the right thing by buying an electric car to save the planet, you're not exempt. You will pay too. You too will pay for the extra mileage being driven. That's what Senator Cynthia Cream has said. And if you are a working man or woman in the Commonwealth, you will pay for Medicare for all if either of these bills makes its way through the House, through the Senate, and onto the governor's desk. I'm somewhat heartened on the transportation bill that it's so far out there that not even Michael Barrett will agree with it. But I'm not going to bet the ranch on it not passing. I'm going to tell you, anytime a bill gets to the Massachusetts legislature, no matter how crazy you think that bill might be, it's got a fighting chance to pass, including Medicare for all. All right. That does it. It went 47 minutes. Typical lengthy Trigger 'em Tuesday, even by myself. But I hope you know a little bit more about Senate Bill 2246, Senate Bill 860, and House Bill 1239, and what they are attempting to do. I encourage everybody, go read the bills in their entirety. There's a lot of other stuff in there. There's a lot of legalese. There's a lot of other stuff in there, especially in the healthcare for all, the Medicare for all bill. Look at it. Look at how it affects you. Consider reaching out to your legislature, your legislative representative. As I told you, on the transportation bill, Lowell State Rep. Vanna Howard, 17th Middlesex District, has signed on to it. On the Medicare for All bill, both Representative Howard and 16th Middlesex State Rep. Tara Hong have also signed on to that one as well. If you support it, reach out. Tell them you support it. By all means. If you don't support it, please do what the activists are going to do, because the activists are the ones that are pushing these agenda items here. The transportation bill is being pushed by lefty activists all over the country. This isn't just a Massachusetts thing. It's an all over the country, just like God's backyard, just like one size fits all for ADUs, just like MBTA bills, everything. And yes, Medicare for all. There are people pushing this across the country, and Massachusetts, I wouldn't be surprised if it passes. We're already most of the way there, right, with Mass Health. Why not just completely put our head underwater and see if we can breathe? You know, right now we may be able to breathe through the nostrils. Let's completely push your head underwater and see if you can still breathe if you are a working man or woman in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, because ultimately you are the one that's going to pay these taxes. If you have a job, you must get to work, and 99% of you drive to work. If you have to go to a sporting event or some extracurricular activity for you, for your kids, for whoever, or to visit and care for an elderly family member or friend, or whatever the case may be, you will be paying for this. folks who aren't doing that, who aren't working, yeah, charge away on that carbon tax, baby. Although they have cars too, don't they? They like to go to sporting events. Their kids like to play sports. Their kids like to go see the Celtics, Patriots, or Red Sox from time to time. They have family members far away. They too will drive their cars. So contact your legislator if you are in favor of it. If you're not, contact them and tell them, please don't make these things happen. That's it for today's Daily Pulse. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Show will drop, Wednesday morning show will drop at noon. Haven't figured out our guest yet. Had Bill Samaras drop out on me, and he's got an appointment that he had that won't allow him to be here, but we'll find somebody to step in his place. If not, we'll just do a Wing It Wednesday, and I'll get you all fired up as well. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you for following all of our content on InsideLowell.com. As we like to say, if Lowell is your home, this is your place. Until next time, enjoy this gorgeous late spring day, and we'll catch you on the other side.